Or to cloud. All right. Try to stay focused here. I think I can get this going now. So these are the first two class periods after the Thanksgiving week break. And so as I said the other day, what I want you guys to do is put this together and I want you to present it in class. And the order in which we do this, we'll figure it out. The other thing I need to figure out too, now that some of you guys have partners, I don't want duplicates. I don't want like 5 Parthenon presentations. And so if you guys, one of you from the group would email me your subject that you'd like to research, please do so. And if there are duplicates, we'll work it out. We'll negotiate. And on that, excuse me, on that subject, anything from the textbook is fair game. And so what I really don't want you to do though is Stonehenge, because I already showed you a Stonehenge example. And so here it is. Here's the purpose. Whenever we do things in higher ed, and even K through 12 too, you have good teachers that plan things out. They put forth course objectives, or in this case, I just wrote purpose, but these are objectives that we want to meet, and developing research skills. Well, I've been kind of moving on that somewhat. Did ask you guys to do some library research on primary sources, and we'll be talking about research skills, and especially this is right in line with that course objective. Public speaking. Well, this is kind of like public speaking, but it's kind of not like public speaking, because what I want you to do is have it in the PowerPoint. And so there are a few things that you'll need to consider. As I said, we can do this by maintaining social distancing. If you like, you can send that PowerPoint back and forth to each other and edit it and send it back and go back and forth. But there are a bunch of other things that you'll need to consider that typically you wouldn't do in regular public speaking. For example, I'm doing public speaking right now. And just a moment ago, and I was hoping he'd still work, sounded like there was somebody out there running a leaf blower or a hedge trimmer or something, one of those little gas motors. Somebody from landscaping, that's in the background. You got to watch that. Last year I had a bunch of them. I think one of them did this at the airport, to be quite honest with you, because I could hear some loud noises that sounded like jets flying in and out. And maybe they just live up there in Bridgeton or something. I don't know. But at any rate, that's public speaking, typically, a lot of those kinds of things are taken care of when you're putting together. There he is. Bottom line, you got to really kind of control the environment. I'm not asking you to do your own video, which you would have to worry about lighting and other concerns and framing the picture and so on. but you do have to be mindful of the audio. It's really important, and it's something that unless you're doing something like this, we just kind of don't think about it. I wouldn't even thought about this guy out there working, except I'm talking to you about this thing. And so knowledge, of course, always wants you to know more. That's like the big purpose why you guys are here. And a lot of you, many of you I know, are here to learn everything you can, everything that's offered. That's why you go to college, broaden your horizons. Some of you, I think, may have a kind of a narrow objective that you want to learn, but we throw in all this other stuff anyway. Either case, this is what a degree is all about, is about knowledge. And when you have that degree, after you walk across the stage, get your sheepskin, you will have proof that you know a lot about a lot of stuff. PowerPoint, I want you to have that skill. I don't know how much you're still doing this today. A lot of times people looking for workers, they have open positions and they'll ask sometimes if you are proficient in, and they'll give you a list of software, a lot of programs. And so you can be proficient in PowerPoint and still not know how to do a recording. But if anybody asks sometime down the line, they say, you know, you really need to do an audio with this. You got it. You got it. It's in your portfolio. It's something, it's a document, it's proof. And so it's something nice to know anyway. And I do believe that as we do more things online, this skill, whether it's in PowerPoint or whether it's in any other programs, Google Docs or whatever, this is a skill that I think will serve you well. And working cooperatively, that's always something that when we ask employers what do they expect from our graduates, and believe me, we ask people that. Here at any good school like Maryville, we try to keep our finger on the pulse when it comes to that, because we're looking forward to you after you graduate and doing well, and that you have the skills that people are looking for. And so anyway, cooperative working, that's always been something pretty high up on the wish list of potential employers looking for graduates to join their. And so anyway, that is that. Next slide, specifications. This is what I want you to produce. A PowerPoint, 7 to 10 minutes in duration. And then along with that, I want on a Word document, in a Word document, a summary of the participation. Now, some of this I'll know, everybody will know, because what I found is that most people choose to split up the narration. One person talks for a while, partner talks for a while. They go back and forth. How many of you have seen Khan Academy videos? Yes. And they do that a lot, especially the art history ones. They have a man, they have a woman, and they just kind of bounce off each other. And that's really a pretty effective way of communicating. And it seems to hold people's interest, which is why they do it. And so I want you to write a summary of participation and a bibliography. That is where you got your sources and kind of the summary of participation and the bibliography should kind of be going hand in hand, because I really want both members of the team to narrate, and I also would expect that both members of the team would do the research too. And so it's a PowerPoint with maps and the images of the subject matter, and finally a transcript, and that is the verbatim narration. And this actually can help you guys put together PowerPoint. You can do it afterwards and then play your own video and write it down. But if you write it beforehand, chances are it'll be more organized. You'll see what you have. And as I do up here, because I'm not on script, a lot of things happen when you're not on script. Like with me, because I'm old and stuff, I forget words. I go, what should I say here? Don't want that on your PowerPoint. And it happens to everyone. And so that'll be the transcript. And as if I could read the transcript and play your video, same. And so here is the subject matter. And it's all of the stuff, the painting, the sculpture, or architecture before 1300 in the book. That's kind of the cutoff line. Some of it goes into the 1300s, but I don't think there's anything here that's past 1400. So it's in the book, it's fair game. And so the things I want you to talk about: time, place, purpose of the work, power, and belief systems. I think I came through here, we talked about Byzantium, talked about late antiquity, two recent chapters. If I didn't do that in this class, we'll do this again. I show all slides, and we looked at every slide very briefly and saw that everything in that chapter had to do with Christianity. That is the power. That is the authority. That's who paid for this stuff. And so the power sometimes might be shared, for instance. Like, how about Emperor Justinian and the Hagia Sophia? He's a Roman emperor. So that is the power, but it's built according to and in service of the belief system, Christianity. You can take all of the other stuff that Justinian did, like San Vitale and Ravenna and so on and so on. So that's what I mean. Sometimes the power and the belief system, sometimes they're tied together. If you talk about ancient Egypt, the power and the belief system are typically united. For example, almost all of the artwork that we see from Egypt, all of the architecture and the wall paintings, the tombs, the mummies, the jewelry, the other artifacts, they were commissioned and belonged to the pharaohs. That's power. The belief system, except for a few notable examples like Akhenaten, the pharaoh was a god too. So that's sometimes these things are tied more closely together, sometimes not. Sometimes in Roman times, we see sculptures of generals or vegetable sellers or an old woman with a basket. So anyway, just saying, just kind of tease that out. And in your PowerPoint, and you can put this together any way you like, be sure. Formal analysis. I'm going to click on this website, but so give me a moment here. Let's see, control, click. There it is. This is from, make sure everybody can see this. Yeah, we'll get formal analysis. That has everything to do with the physical characteristics of the work. This is, for a long time, the basis for evaluating work. That's an old notion because this does not give any weight to the purpose of the work. That's why it's separated out in this assignment, and that's why it's only one method of analyzing a work. But nevertheless, it's still important. Gives you a way to talk about the work, how the artist used the elements to the desired effect. For instance, King Ramses II in Egypt, great towering temples, power, authority, and scale, which demonstrates, or at least, how should I say this? It affects the viewer in a way that a viewer would know this was supreme power, because the scale would be epic, and by comparison, we humans would be very tiny. And so anyway, elements of art, principles of design. So you guys who are art majors probably already know a lot of this. And you can click on these hot links, and this will tell you what all of these are. Sometimes they apply, sometimes not. And so line, the identifiable path created by a point moving in space, it is one-dimensional and can vary in width, direction, and length. And so kind of horizontal lines, that's the overall line in this painting. Vertical lines, size, scale, and as we talked about it here with Roman paintings, single point perspective, and so vertical lines, height, because they are perpendicular, and we talk about run this down. Space. 1-point perspective gives you the illusion of space. Geometric shapes, organic shapes. Form. Form is kind of an interesting issue because in two-dimensional art, it is an illusion. In bas-relief, which is something between sculpture and two-dimensional art, mosaic, painting, so on, frescoes. It's more of an illusion. So anyway, form, shape. Not all of these will apply, but if you stretch the definition and you're doing the research and you keep your eye out for some of these key words, I think you'll meet this criteria. And so I gotta make sure I got my share. Yeah, we'll do it. And so formal analysis, take a read through that. If you got any questions, I'll be happy to help you. Legacy. Occasionally, I bring in pictures of artworks that have been influenced by the work that we're studying here. We're more or less talking about antiquity. We're talking about at least 600 years ago, up to tens of thousands, years ago. But there is a legacy, and the kinds of things that they did then influence what we do now. Give you some examples. How about the Washington Monument? That's a legacy of the Egyptian obelisk, which was a monument created in ancient Egypt. Legacy of Greek architecture, the temples on the Acropolis and other temples around the Greek Empire. What did that influence? We talk about this in class. Neoclassical architecture, we find that all over the place in Washington, D.C., and in other places, in Europe and places. The art of Titus influenced the art of Triomphe, Paris, France. And so that's what I mean by legacy. And sometimes the legacy, as I've talked about it here too, when we have these depictions of what we call mythology, such as the Anubis, the canine head on the human body. I showed you some of that too, that you find that in anime. And you find a lot of things that impose or describe animal characteristics onto a human being. Marvel Comics, Spider-Man stuff. Anyway, minotaurs, centaurs, etc., etc. So that is a legacy issue. Some things may not have affected later generations of artists, but most have, and especially in architecture and in sculpture. Colosseum, Bush Stadium too, just say it, you know. And so here's the steps that I want you to follow. in putting this together. And choose partners, kind of halfway there. Choose subject matters. And this is, the rest of this is between you and your partner. Set the meeting times, however you do that. If you're throwing a PowerPoint file back and forth, you may not even really need to meet in person. But at least arrange some kind of schedule for when your partner can expect you to do your part and send it back. So that's the meeting times. If you choose to meet face to face, because I know some of you guys are related, some of you guys are friends and see each other outside of class, that's on you. But if you choose a partner and you choose to remain socially distant, you can do this. You can email the times. You say, I'll have this back to you on Wednesday. Thanks. I'll do my part, send it back on Friday. And so that's why, partly why I built in a lot of time for this to happen. So you got really a month before Thanksgiving, and then you got Thanksgiving week. But hopefully, I sure hope that you're done with this, so you don't have to do this over Thanksgiving break. That's just a bit of advice. Thanksgiving break is the first time many of you been out of here. Might have a lot of demands, a lot of you guys. It always happens. Got to be there because relatives are coming into town. They're all going to be, they want to see you. And we have Thanksgiving dinner. We're going to have leftovers on Friday, and Saturday we're going to the movies and, you know, whatever. So anyway, plan it out, rehearse, record, and publish. And that's it for the first PowerPoint. And let me get to, this is formal analysis and power structure. Oh, let me jump ahead here. Assembling a PowerPoint. Make sure I got my share. We're good. And here's what I got. Assemble your slideshow. And so you may be showing different aspects of the work. This is the painting. This is a close-up of the head and eyes. This is the pyramids. This is the pyramids from aerial view. Whatever. You saw what they did with Stony and Jacob. So assemble your slideshow. I actually put some of my artwork on here. Just saying. Can't do my artwork. It's too new. So anyway, this is my first slide. And I'll tell you a little bit about my artwork. These are LED cords, battery operated, and you can turn them on blank, stuff like that. This is one of those stress relievers, you know, if you're giving blood or something, they have you squeeze. It's a heart. So I got a heart and a heart. That's what it's called, hearts. And there's a close-up, just say. And this is another one of mine. These are light box size. So they're about like this. And so I got LED lights lighting this up, and it's an aquarium, including goldfish crackers and stuff. And this is my Genius one, a pedestal, one of those squeeze brains and LED lights emanating from it. So I got those slides. There were 3 slides. Here's what it looked like. And so I've got, see, this is all kind of weird over this side because of how I had to put this together. But at any rate, this is a new button on PowerPoint. Rehearse with Coach. And it's kind of interesting because it'll help you put together your slideshow. And so you rehearse it. Bottom line is that you can rehearse timings too. And this thing will automatically switch times for you. And when you see this on the slides, it'll give you the little minutes and seconds that this will be up and stuff, so on. But at any rate, this is the big one. Record slideshow. And like I say, you can rehearse the timings and kind of figure out what you're going to do, how long you're going to stay on that. And if you got that down, you don't have to worry about clicking it while you talk so much, or you can click it as you're going through your narration, and you'll have that version with the timings, and then you can go back and record the audio. And so that's what we got here. It says moves through the slides while narrating. And I'm sorry, I don't have the slideshow one up there. But at any rate, record, and you'll have it. You can play it back, you can edit, etc. So anyway, this is how you'll put it together. What happens in the final analysis of this is that this will be saved as an MP4. It takes the PowerPoint and turns it into a video, in essence. And these video files should be able to upload onto Canvas. Final document, when it's all done, should be good. We had some problems with this in the past, and it had everything to do with not having enough space on the server. That's been fixed. We moved into primarily online courses, as you guys who were here last year remember. We did it kind of on a dime, and we had not had the infrastructure that we hoped. And so let me go back. Oh, not that far back. And I'll just have to do it the hard way. We're still good there. And I put this up. Did I play this for you guys? Part of it? No, I didn't think so. So here, let me show you an example.
For our presentation, we chose Stonehenge and
And I'm Alex Sir.
the reason why I chose Stonehenge
Just a minute. I
And
got
although there are many theories that it's not known where the environment is.
Can you guys hear that? Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Of how really society was formed. And you can see many different artifacts that are found at the site and were buried before its construction. And I really believe the stone was true. The
Maps.
Stonehenge's background, it was the most sophisticated stone circle during the prehistoric times in the world. Its construction began around 31 2000 BC and was completed over 1,000 years later. The monument is located 88 miles southwest of London in a town called Salisbury, and it's classified under for being the largest cremation cemeteries known in the Atlantic Britain. Today it is also used by pagans and some similarities with Druid, as they often use Stonehenge for funeral ceremonies, not only long before the first arrival. It is characterized under Neolithic design, and the Stonehenge rocks were brought over and formed after 1800 BCE. So one of the theories behind Stonehenge is that many people believe that this monument was built by the Romans and Phoenicians. However, there aren't any clues to prove that these were actually true behind between the stones. First, way back when the Romans established their territory across Europe and saw Stonehenge as an element for art, which was important enough for them, and later it became a symbol of the unification of Great Britain. Today, it is seen as a popular tourist site as for people to look at these massive ancient rocks formed in a circle and to tell which theories they really want to believe. The story of what they were told. Another theory was it was a hyper illusion where there would be points where two fibers were playing music, the sound waves would cancel each other out, creating spots, causing the sound to lessen. Stonehenge was planned to be built at the direction of Merlin, who was the leader and responsible for creating stone. Merlin was the three Catholic tribes, and the theory was stood for almost over 300 years. And what was really Stonehenge's main purpose? Before in many stories, the monument was seen as a solar calendar, and it marked the movement of the sun along with the two solstices, the winter and summer. The presence of human remains suggests that Stonehenge could have served as an animal burial ground as well as a ceremonial complex for the temple of the people who were deceased. Most people and historians saw this revealing to those who were sick. As we can see, Stonehenge mountain is people prostrating because of its massive size, stones, and the ancient stores that are built behind it. Parker Pearson suggests that the Walsh tombstone was the first to be put in place at Stonehenge, and that was a was really important. Stonehenge was considered to be the ancestral symbol for Western Britain. And at the time, it served as the center for the first employee. So when looking at really help us better the area of more than provided our website sources for more information for what we got. Thank you.
So, question. What'd you think? And what would you do differently if you were to do anything differently? Yes. I think, yeah, that could work. Yeah, I like that, Lisa. Anybody else? Dan?
No, I'm with Lucille on that one. I got taught growing up that you usually don't want to put more than like four bullet points or slide. I'll probably the color scheme kind of was weird to me because it really didn't really if you're able to keep it simple, you probably want to keep it simple, just go for black background or something like that. But again, I thought it was.
Whitney, what do you say?
I'd try to elaborate a little bit more on some of the points that they made, like they talked about how Stonehenge was set up in a circle, but they didn't really relate it to why that was important to the figure. They just kind of stated it, so I'd go into a little more detail on that.
I think that's a good critique. Yeah, they let a lot of things go unexplained or with no follow-up. Yeah, I agree. And I think that what you other guys are talking about the design, picking on the font and the number of bullet points, and this is all good. What do you think about the narration itself?
I think there was parts where it could have probably flowed a little bit better, like it was a little choppy from subject to subject. So that would be one.
Yeah. Chloe, I think you got something there. I kind of I'm actually very glad that you brought that up because I think if you're sending these files back and forth and you say, I'm going to take slides 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and the other one gets 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, you really have to kind of tie it together, not be so choppy. And I think the other part is, and one of the things that was really good about this was there was no background noise like I was talking about. That was like a big issue. But I think that maybe speaking a little more loudly and a little more clearly would have helped it too.
I just think the tone was the same. So like changing your tone. But it
Yeah.
is how they went back and forth.
Yeah, it's kind of a monotone. Yeah. Say it like you mean it. Just say. Yeah, thanks, Happy. Jordan.
I don't know if you said this already. It's a question about design. Are we presenting it in class or are we doing it video?
We're watching the video in class with you guys sitting up here. You'll be at the controls. And when it's over, then you're here to answer questions. And I think that because there's two of you, we can still keep a practical social distance too. I don't want see when we have large groups and everybody's on top of each other and stuff, but two people could somebody could sit there, somebody could sit here, move another chair, whatever. And so, well, I think you guys, hopefully we'll have a good start here. And we got I just want to show you a little bit of something here. And we talked about I don't have it on here. I do want to say a couple of things. First, I got to make sure we're on this good share. There we go. I wanted to say something about Stonehenge too. And that is that since that PowerPoint was made, they know a lot more about what that rock is and where they got it from. They said it's somewhere in southwestern Wales, and so they don't really know how to move those big stones, such large stones, such a long way. But since that time, because I get this stuff in my news feed all the time, they actually know a lot more. reason they know a lot more was I talked about the Acropolis and how people used to pick up stones from the Acropolis and put them in their pockets and go home, and they have a little piece of the Acropolis until they cracked down and made it a crime. Well, Acropolis was not the only place that happened. And they found this old guy, it's like 95 years old, and served in England during the Second World War. And he brought home a piece of Stonehenge. Now, the government in England and Great Britain, they don't want anybody testing their stones. They don't want it. They don't want to disturb them. They don't want to harm them in any way. But this guy had a piece of it that nobody knew about, and it allowed for some labs to do some testing on it. So they found out what it was made of and a clearer idea where it came from. Just saying, sometimes crime does pay. Not wrong. And so we talked about Islam, and we talked about the Dome on the Rock. And did we stop here? I know we saw this, Christiana Amanpour. And I want to show you another video to kind of finish out today. We'll talk about this on Wednesday. And make sure I got the screen share. That'll work. And this is from Rome. This is from the Vatican, and it's about Cordoba's mosque. It's called Great Mosque. And so here, I'm going to show you this.
The relationship between church and state has always been a thorny issue, and the case of the Mosque Cathedral of Cordoba is one of the most delicate topics in Spain. The current government accuses the diocese of having claimed ownership of the temple, but it was supposedly state-owned. The church would only be able to manage the Mosque Cathedral, but never to declare itself the owner. The diocese defends the ownership of the cathedral because in the 13th century, the king donated it to them. The Bishop of Cordoba warns that in reality, there's much more at stake, the relationship with the Islamic world.
La mezquita Catedral de Córdoba, que antes fue
The Mosque Cathedral of Cordoba's property title is in the name of the church after King Ferdinand III himself donated it. Furthermore, there is this document in the Samana archives that details the donation of the cathedral to the Bishop and Church of Cordoba. Once a basilica, King Ferdinand III ordered it to be consecrated as a cathedral. It is a symbol of the relationship between Islam and Christianity. There are those who are interested in making it not only a symbol of that relationship, but also a symbol of conflict.
The Mosque Cathedral of Cordoba has a complex history that began as a Christian basilica to the arrival of Muslims in Spain in the 8th century. A mosque was built over it. With the passing of the centuries, it was extended until it reached its maximum splendor with Al-Masud in the 10th century. At that time, it was only surpassed by Mecca. In the 13th century, Ferdinand III reconquered the city and donated the majestic building to the church, who erected it again as a Christian temple. Now Muslim groups demand shared prayer so that both Christians and Muslims can use the temple. However, the Bishop of Cordoba is not convinced that's the right solution. He recalls that there are Catholic temples in the Muslim world that are in a very different situation.
Esta misma situación de Córdoba se produce sobre
The same Cordoba situation occurs only in Santa Sofia, that a precious basilica is now a museum and has once been and can become again a mosque. Or in Famagusta in Cyprus, also a Greek Gothic cathedral has been converted into a mosque by facts of history and conquest.
Controversies such as the Mosque Cathedral of Cordoba can upset the relationship between Christianity and Islam. In recent decades, the dialogue between the two has undergone certain improvements. Much of this is thanks to meetings such as that of Pope Francis and the Imam of Al-Azhar, the historic Muslim university where future student imams are formed. Hopefully, Pope Francis's trip to Morocco in March 2019 can continue to foster a cordial atmosphere.
Hello.
So I wanted to see that. And this has been an issue. And I got to tell you, I really was personally happy that Pope Francis got into this conflict and hopefully bring it to a peaceful resolution. But we saw the same thing with the Dome on the Rock, which kind of changed hands, you know, through the Crusades and then the fighting in the Middle East and so on. Hagia Sophia, it was a cathedral, then it was a mosque, then it was turned into a museum, and now it's back to being a mosque. And this bishop actually kind of referenced Hagia Sophia. And so anyway, this is, you know, how should I say this? In a lot of ways, it's pretty disheartening that these conflicts actually occur. And so we can talk about that, I guess, on Wednesday, but I did want you to see the video for another reason too. And that is it has some wonderful shots of the architecture. And if you take a look at the architecture, it's just splendid. And it is a very good example of Islamic architecture. And so, anyway, what are we saying? Are we saying adios? Adieu? Bye. So long. See you later. See you Wednesday. Good. And don't forget, oh, I wanted to tell you one other thing. We'll talk about quiz 3 on Wednesday too. I got a lot to say, but there were some issues. I'm still waiting for a couple of them to come in. So we'll talk about that on Wednesday as well. So,
Me at home, so what's I have 5 of them now. I will work with the phone.
oh, problem.
Yeah, we will work with them.
Sounds good. Yeah. And now, so I got a question though, so I've been always confused. They have you on the roster. But not your last name. That's your really first name.
Yeah, my first name, the last name is will start with A, Alunazi.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, and I thought I could show you because I was confused. Yeah, well, I just want to know. See, they have the now.
Yeah, it's correct.
That is correct, but they put you in between an L and an N.
Oh.
I don't know either, so that's my confusion.
Oh.
So now I know your name and everything. That's very good. And you and Colin, I like it. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye-bye.